Hello guys, welcome once again to another technology moment and actually to several tech moments, a little renewing certain content related to UniFi equipment, which has not only changed in terms of its functionality, but has also changed in terms of its graphical user interface that involve practically all the UniFi gateways. All these devices are capable of hosting the controller service in your network for those of you who are interested on migrating to UniFi. And as we have seen since the conception of UniFi, the brand has made that very robust deployments can be implemented and addressed by people with little to no experience, but without this implying a sacrifice in security or reliability. Small parenthesis right here at this time, although in the past we saw countless inconsistent and disorderly changes in the interface in terms of its presentation and logical organization, it's something that has been substantially improved by the brand in its latest updates. Well, some exceptions, of course, or clarifications in its interface that we would not like to see, like the one that you're seeing on screen. Without further ado, what to expect from this video and what questions will we answer? Implementation of VLANs, a topic that is absolutely very important. Isolation of ports and networks in the same physical infrastructure, using captive portals to make independent VLANs for such use. By the way, we're going to be seeing this in future videos dedicated to the newest versions of their portals. Wi-Fi bandwidth control for Wi-Fi connected clients, including parental control, something that is frequently asked too. And in general, during this process, you will see most recent graphical user interface, this oriented for those of you who are simply making the decision to migrate to Ubiquiti equipment in their UniFi series of products. As you can see, it is a multi-purpose video, and as many of you will have realized right now, after seeing this list, is that they are the most frequent implementations in small to medium-sized networks. So this way, we will obtain very functional, secure networks, and above all, networks over which we will have absolute control. The networking equipment that you decide to use in your network will depend, of course, on your speed, of your ports, their traffic concentrations, and such. The functionality will be exactly the same. It doesn't matter which device you choose from UniFi, you will get the same functionality. In our case, due to the availability that we have right now, we will use a UDM Pro, a typical case of a US24 PoE switch that you will see in very typical deployments of many access points, such as the UniFi 6, and that's it. Maybe 2 access points that, as you will know, could represent 10, 20, 30, or 40 access points. Soon, we will be releasing our Wi-Fi 7 series of videos, as we already did with the Omega series of products from TP-Link. Starting our content and considering that many understand the theory behind the implementation of VLANs, probably the topic that has the most importance and relevance today for access control, broadcast control in the network, and of course, functionally grouping companies or extensive tech teams. This implementation, of course, do not make much sense for smaller deployments. As you have most likely already seen in our introductory videos about what VLANs are, they are nothing more than a way of labeling each packet that travels through the network with an identifying number of the network to which each device connected to it belongs. For VLANs to work, you simply need to have the switches that support packet tagging throughout the whole network infrastructure. For example, layer 2 switches onwards. We will see in future videos the advantages of layer 3 switches over layer 2 in terms of VLAN management and traffic routing, and whether or not their implementation in medium and small networks is worth it. Let's look at it then in a practical example. Just so we understand that the menus may have changed slightly, these are the versions that we are going to be using in this video, which are the most recent to date. We go then to the settings menu, then we're going to go to the networks, and we're going to create a new virtual network, or better, we're going to create 3 VLAN networks, for which the recommendation is always to give the names that are somewhat descriptive and associated with the network segment that we're going to create. For example, VLAN 2, we're going to associate it with this range of IP addresses. The second network is 3, we're going to associate it with this other range of IP addresses, and the third, systematically, with this other range of IP addresses. We're going to initially leave the advanced values to the default values for the 3 networks. Here we uncheck it, for example, if we just want to define the range of IPs that we want for each VLAN. Now, the ports simply do not matter which switch or where it is located in our facilities. We can assign different VLANs to different networks. It doesn't matter how far apart they are. And for this, we go to the UniFi devices, we choose the switch that we want to customize, we open the port manager from the device menu or from the left tab. Then we're going to choose right here the ports that we want to modify, and we assign which network it belongs to. And of course, how we want to manage the power profiles. The internet access and other very interesting features you might want to test, of course, before full deployment. For example, a partial answer to our question number 2, in which we can, at the port level, isolate its communication with the rest of the network, but in this case, at the level of the switch itself. More about this in a moment. Once the customization has been completed, let's take a look at the interface reports. When we go to Devices, choose the switch that we are managing and view the VLANs graphically, something very useful as you can see right here. Now let's take a look at what that implies in a real-life scenario. We will connect a physical computer here, which is this one, an uplink to my UDM Pro on this port. We will connect another computer right here, this one, and we will connect an access point right here. We're going to use just one access point. It can actually be like 10 or 20, it doesn't matter. You all know that deployment of access points in UniFi is as easy as it gets. This access point is going to be connected to a port that belongs to VLAN 3. The Wi-Fi network will be configured to belong to VLAN 5. How does this affect the wireless network? Well, as we see here, when I am connected to this port directly in a wired way, I am part of this network. Now let's disconnect this cable. So we're going to have this and reconnect it, but to the wireless network. This network is going to be part of the VLAN 5. So this one is the network segment that I'm going to be using when I connect to the Wi-Fi. Very interesting. I can, for example, apply a lot of additional restrictions to this Wi-Fi network. Let's remember that this is also another very efficient way to be able to have several gateways for different type of users. That is, for example, my best bandwidth or my best internet provider. I can assign it to a group of users. Say, for example, tech users can be assigned to one group and another one to a different VLAN that is going to have another very different internet access. Even when computers are next to each other, they can be in the same office, they can belong to very different networks. Well, that is exactly what happens when I want to access from one VLAN to another one that is sharing files or printers. There is no problem at all. We do ping tests, but exactly as with VPNs, as you may have been able to watch our videos regarding VPNs, as we saw in that video, the Windows firewall may block the traffic that comes from different subnets, or subnets different than the local network. This is something very important. We invite you to watch that video on how to create these traffic exceptions to be able to connect and have access to shared resources on other Windows machines in different VLANs. Okay, so finally, to completely isolate the users of a VLAN or a virtual network with respect to all other users, we must go to the configuration of such network, go to the Isolate Network item, and check it. This way, the users will only be able to see clients from their own network. For example, right here in this continuous ping, once we apply the network isolation restriction, you will lose access to resources in other VLANs and will only have access to the gateway. Port isolation will not let you access computers, but this happens at a switch level, while network isolation prevents exchange of data between VLANs. By now, many of you may have already intuited the use of VLANs in captive portals, and of course this network isolation that we just saw. Invitation right here to subscribe to our channel and activate the notifications, as we are going to create very soon a new captive portal video with the new technologies associated with them. This will have very interesting options for many. And regarding this, in the same way that we isolate any network, we can control the VLAN and the isolation that we want to give our clients who connect to a captive portal in our network. Many clients of which we will most likely want to have well isolated from our network resources. Regarding bandwidth control for wired networks, something that is asked a lot, but this is done in steps of network standards. We can go to Profiles, We create or edit a new profile, we select the link speed that we will allow on such port, we save, and then we assign it in the port manager the profile that we have just created for those characteristics. Important right here to take into account. These are configurations that can be created in the profile manager that contradict configurations created specifically in the port, such as its membership to certain VLANs, speeds, and more. That said, we have to choose how we're gonna manage these configurations so we're not gonna create conflicts. As for speed control for wireless clients, this is much more configurable and easy to apply, also through network profiles, but we choose up here the Wi-Fi limit. We create a new profile that is according to the type of clients that we will have connected to a specific access point, and then in that configuration of the Wi-Fi network that we're gonna limit, we're gonna activate the Wi-Fi speed limit, assigning one of the profiles that we have just created, and that's it. We're gonna have wireless clients that are not gonna surpass such limits. To finish our video, a small sample of those extraordinary modifications and access that we will have through the graphical user interface of the UniFi controller, keep in mind that we are only referring to the portion that manages the network devices, and we are not including all those other software services that UniFi controllers like this one can run, as you can see right here. We see, for example, that the latest versions of the UniFi administration consoles that can run on a wide variety of devices provide us with a lot of information, which, by the way, UniFi development team has finally mastered. This goes from the control panel with a quick summary of the data managed, the connected clients, the active VPNs, all the devices here listed and consolidated. Here, for example, the one that I'm connected to at this point. In this case and in this test environment, we only have a very few active devices, but we could very well have right here hundreds of devices in our network. We also see and have control of all the clients connected to our network, assigned fixed IP addresses with the columns that we want to see. Very intuitive, by the way. Quick access to the port manager and statistics per network device, analysis of our Wi-Fi spectrum with many diagnostic tools, and unlike what we saw a few years ago with UniFi, they have finally managed to consolidate the configuration menu in an arrangement quite organized by categories, which will allow us to configure what we already saw at the beginning of this video, as well as a built-in radius server and much more. We can also, by the way, have a WAN management of an interrupted internet connectivity, which has evolved with its 4 WAN ports in the case of the UDM SE or UDM Pro. And in a very similar way, load balancing, failover, and of course the basic routing, and much more that you will surely find in our previous UniFi videos and content that, although created several years ago, continue to give a very good idea of how to configure in these devices such capabilities. This last chapter of our video is very important for those of you who simply want to know a little about what functionality UniFi equipment can offer, specifically for your companies or scheduled deployments that you have in mind. We see that UniFi's equipment availability has grown incredibly, and we particularly like the progress it has made. A very good way to recognize it is precisely by creating and updating these videos to the new versions of their product interfaces and improvements. Okay guys, we truly hope that this video has been very useful to all of you and has been as informative as it was intended. As many of you already know, we take good care of those of you who leave any comments and questions that we will try to answer as soon as possible. So we hear you in the comments. By the way, don't forget that your valuable help and kind support for our work creating all this content for you is simply to subscribe to our channel and like this video. See you next time.